I think it is done, na?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, sir.
It's full screen, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the 7 equations we have done last class. And as I said earlier, all of you have to remember these basic 7 equations, because the rest of the analysis are purely based on these basic 7 equations. So let us see how we are using these equations to find out different parameters of the fabric. So we have 7 equations and 11 parameters. These are the 11 parameters relating to warp and weft and weave. And I told you last time, if you know any 4, others can be found out. Just for example, if warp is extended by a known amount, I have shown you a diagram also. Initially, this is the shape of the warp yarn in the fabric. If I stretch it, it gets this shape. So without stretching, compression or slippage of threads D, P2, L1, L2 are known. Because if you stretch, the dimension will be changed. But without stretching, compression or slippage of threads, if you know these 4 things, D, P2, so there is no as such a D parameter in the fabric. This capital D is equal to D1 plus D2. End diameter of warp, end diameter of weft, sum total is capital D. Then weft dimensions and creams could be calculated. Okay, that is just for one example. If you know these 4, other things can be calculated. In solving these equations, the most important point which I told you last time, theta 1, theta 2, and of course L1, L2. Among all parameters, theta 1, theta 2 are neither known nor wanted. We don't want actually. To make a fabric, there is no need of any specification of weave angle. Equations are difficult to handle except theta 1, theta 2. As you have seen all these 7 equations, theta 1, theta 2 is coming from the geometry itself. So for all practical purposes, it is desired to eliminate theta 1, theta 2 and L1, L2. The reason is very simple, as I have told you, because we cannot determine these 4 parameters experimentally. Then, and also without these 4 parameters, we cannot solve the equations. So it's always our approach will be always to eliminate these theta 1, theta 2, L1, L2, whatever best possible methods we have. Then easily we can solve the equations, and also the results can be authenticated with the experimental values. That's the main idea. So let us take the first approach. Let us take equation number 4 and equation number 6. So equation number 4 will give L1 minus d theta 1 is equal to P2 minus d sin theta 1 over cos theta 1. Let it be equation A. Similarly, equation 6 can be written in this way. Let's give its name B. Equate A and B to eliminate L. Simple. Now we are in a position to eliminate L. Then go for further processing. Simplify these equations. Divide, it is just written from this equation. Cross multiply. and find out. Divide cos theta both sides. You will get this. If you want to eliminate theta, let's put t is equal to tan theta by 2, so that sin theta will be 2t upon 1 plus t square. Cos theta will be 1 minus t square by 1 plus t square. Substitute sin theta cos theta in this equation number C and solve for t. Is okay? So substituting value of theta, sorry, to eliminate theta, if you use this trigonometric process, you can find out the value of t from this equation, because this equation becomes a quadratic equation in t, which has two roots, t1 and from here, out of these two roots, consider only positive root for real fabric, because if you can try it, if you take the negative value, the actual absolute result which comes out is a very absurd one, which is not true for a real fabric. So we have to take the positive root, and using value of t, one can calculate theta, L and C and all other parameters just by substituting this value of t in the above equation. One can try here, just see. You can try using equation number 1 and 4 by eliminating L and substituting t above. You will get this equation. See, this equation cannot be solved algebraically for T1. You can only substitute values of T1 obtained earlier in this equation to solve this for academic interest only. However, we have other means to solve this equation. If you cannot algebraically solve it, graphically we can do this. How we can do this graphically? Just have a look. Plot from this equation h upon d over p upon d. H is known, P is known. Crimp amplitude, thread spacing, capital D, D1 plus D2, D1 plus D2. Then you will find a large number of curves for a different values of C. Look at what are the values of C given here. 0.003 means if you multiply 100, it is 3%, 11%, 23%, like this. Different values of crimp in the yarn. So this graphical method can be used only for few values of C. But it is necessary to express the cloth parameter in a functional for generalizing the relationship, because this is a tedious exercise. For a given value of C, you can create only one curve. Manually, you can make 5 curve, 10 curve or 20 curve. But if you want to generalize this relationship, then we express this in like this. H1 is equal to F function of P2C1. I will show you in the next slide how this H1 is equal to F is equal to H1 is equal to a function of P and C. This function F can be obtained from this graph, but this you can realize only looking at this. See here. If you understand this diagram which I have given you, look at H is a function of P and C. Look at from this diagram, what is H? H is crimp amplitude. This is the center of wave T1. So from here, look at my cursor, H. H means amplitude from here to center of this. This center of wave T1 to center of wave T1. Height of crimp height. And how this crimp height is changing. Spacing means distance from here to here. Look at in this diagram. Crimp is more. What is the distance? Here crimp is less. What is the distance? So height, crimp percentage and thread spacing, all three things as shown in this diagram. H, P and C value, crimp, what you see here, C. They can be generalized in a function. It's called H1 is equal to, or crimp amplitude is a function of thread spacing and crimp percentage in the yarn of a fabric. And one can change any of these three parameters, or you can change the distance. We know we can weave a fabric of a different thread density. P2 is spacing. Spacing is nothing but 1 upon n. N is equal to number of threads per inch. As you can go on changing number of threads per inch in a fabric, whether it is warp and weft, you can change the P value. And if you can change the P value, as clearly seen from this diagram, we can change the crimp value or we can change the H value. So this is how mathematically a fabric crimp spacing and crimp amplitude they are related. There are some other alternative way to solve this equation. This is the second approach. In this second approach, we take the help of trigonometric expansion. So again, take your equation number 4. Please remember these 7 equations you have to always remember. Equation number 4 is P2 is equal to L1 minus d theta 1 cos theta 1 plus d sin theta 1. Expand sin theta and cos theta. Trigonometric expansion. Sin theta is theta minus theta cube factorial 3 and so on. Similarly, cos theta. Here theta is measured in radian. Last class I have also told you this is nothing but weave angle. And if you substitute this sin theta cos theta value in this equation, you will get P2 is equal to this much. I have already shown you what is the value of this theta. Is very, very small weave angle in fraction. So normally, while putting actual value of theta, we can conveniently neglect the higher power of theta. In fact, theta is very small, as I said. Even for a crimp of 10%, theta comes to be only 0.4. And 10% is a very, very high crimp. I told you last class, the value of theta, value of crimp, even you can see in this diagram, I have already shown you. See, 0.003. So it can be as low as this. That's why for this kind of C, and when C becomes 10%, which is hardly occurs in any apparel fabric. Normally 2, 3%, 4%, 5%. So this is one extreme case shown. If crimp is as high as 10%, theta comes out to be 0.4. And obviously, when you take higher power, we can neglect this. And in this derivation, we have neglected power of 3 and above. So neglecting power of theta 3 and above, this equation reduces to this, where P2 is equal to L1 into 1 minus theta 1 square upon 2. So our original equation C1, equation number 1, was L1 minus P2 over P2, means L1 by P2 minus 1. Put P2 from above, substitute value of P2 in this. So it will give you C1 is equal to theta 1 square upon 2, or approximately theta will be equal to 2C1 square root. See how simplified, how easy has it become now. Theta comes out only twice of crimp square root. Similarly, if you take other equation, equation number 2, this is C1 is for equation number 1. If I take equation number 2, which is for the C2, it will be L2 minus P1 over P1. Just change the suffix and you will arrive at theta 2 will be twice C2 square root. So you can give these two equations two more relationship. Let equation number 8 and equation number 9. Theta 1 is twice of work crimp square root. Theta 2 is equal to twice of weight crimp square root. Equation number 8 and 9. Now, substituting trigonometric function in equation number 6. We had done that in substituting equation number 4. You can try with equation number 6 also. It's not necessarily always you do it, but we have to see which one gives more easy solution, means by which substitution we can get our result easily. And if you earlier we considered equation number 4, now if you take equation number 6 and do the same exercise, you will arrive at this value. H1 is equal to L1 2C1 minus DC1. And your crimp equation 1, L1 into P21 plus C1, substitute the value of L, you will get this value. In this case, 2C1 square root minus DC1, where C1 into C1 square root is C1 to the power 3 by 2. As in previous case, we have neglected power of C3 and above. You can also neglect here theta 1 cube, which is approximately 0. L and theta are automatically eliminated. And if you do this, what you will get? You will get H1. Okay, another approximate, not approximate, it's the realistic value. Take the value of root 2 here. This 2 square root 1.414 replaced by 4 upon 3 is equal to 1.33, and it gives approximately H1 is equal to 4 upon 3 P2 square root C1. So crimp amplitude, you arrive at same result. Recall what I said earlier. crimp height is a function of spacing and crimp percentage or crimp value in the warp and weft yarn. We arrive at a relationship where you find H1 is equal to 4/3 P2 C1 square root. H is a function of P and C. Similarly, H2 is a function of P and C. And you give these two equations name equation number 10 and 11. But remember, these four equations 8, 9, 10, 11 are not new equations. Our new equations is only those 7. We have only derived these 4 from those 7. Of course, under certain assumptions, we have neglected higher power of C and couple of more assumptions. So hence, we still need 4 more equations to specify fabric completely. So far, we have only 7 basic equations. So we have to search further to find out more relationship so that we will be in a position to solve all our equations to find 11 variables. Okay, so how to proceed to find out further relationship so that we will be in a position to find out all 11 parameters of the fabric. One way to do this, take your equation number 6. Substitute trigonometric expansion, sin theta cos theta. Also take equation number 4. Again go for trigonometric expansion. Substitute value of sin theta cos theta. Substitute the value of P2 in equation number 1. You have already, from here you can get P2. And this is equation number 1, the very first one. C1 is equal to L1 minus P2 over P2. Substitute value of P2 in this. You will get value of P2 from here. Neglecting higher power of theta means 3 and more. Then substitute this here for P2. You will get this equation. Then you will get most simplified form. When theta is very small, H and P will reduce to H1 is equal to L1 theta 1 and P2 will be equal to L1. Look at this. This is P2. L1 is from here to here. As theta 1 will be very, very small. You understand what is theta? Theta is from this point to this point. As you go on reducing theta, look at the diagram carefully. Theta is weave angle. In this diagram right now, theta is joining this point to this point. So this becomes theta. As theta will reduce, means this yarn is getting straightened. So when theta becomes too small, this L becomes equal to P. That is what written here. When theta is too small, H and P will reduce to H1 is equal to L1 theta 1. P2 will be L1. And since we have already found out relationship C1 is equal to theta 1 square by 2. So H1 will be P2 to C1, or it can be written in this form. H1 is equal to 4/3 P2 square root C1. We again arrive at the same relationship. So it doesn't matter what the procedure is, what the approach is. You will always arrive in the same relationship. Earlier also we get the same thing. H1 is equal to 4/3 P2 C1. H2 is equal to 4/3 P1 C2. And in this approach also we get the same result. H1 is equal to 4/3 P2 C1. And similarly you can write changing the suffix H2 is equal to 4 upon 3 P1 C2. You can write here the other one also. But you have to understand how it is coming. Look at the diagram carefully. See theta weave angle. If you join this weft center to this point, point means distance up to which warp yarn touches the circumference of weft yarn. At this point, touching ends. From here you join. From here you join to center. Then this angle becomes weave angle. As this angle goes on reducing, that means this L warp yarn gets more straightened. That means crimp is getting less and less. Obviously, the theta becomes very small, and at some situation you will find P2 is equal to L1. So it's not simply don't remember it mathematically. Try to understand in fabric how it is happening. Then only you can appreciate the relationship, and it will become subsequently to solve more complex equations relating to this. Okay, some more approach now. Here I have taken diameter of yarn. This is another relationship. I have not derived this. You will get this derivation from yarn part. Theory of textile structure yarn part. Professor Ishtiaq will give you derivation of this. I have given you only two equations. I don't know. I have given you in not I have given. I have given you in tutorial class only. So far we have done only two tutorial classes. The very basic equation of a diameter, which all of you know, D is equal to 1 upon 28 under root count. Everybody knows in textile. And in two groups of tutorial class, I have given another equation. If you know the density of fiber, packing factor, and we are assuming this is the density of the fiber we are using. That is, if it is a cotton 1.52, and if you know packing density, normally for ring spun yarn packing density is 0.66. Then there is one equation I have given you using takes of yarn, density of fiber, packing density of yarn. If these three information is given, then you can find out diameter of yarn. A relationship I have given you in tutorial class. Remaining two groups, today also there is one group I will give, and next the first group also I will give you. Anyway, that's the what point I want to tell you is you will be given, or you have to remember in this particular course, the diameter of yarn, equations for diameter of yarn. And this is one of the equation for the diameter of yarn, if you know the volume and count of the yarn. So we take specific volume. Specific volume is volume per unit mass, like density is mass by volume. So specific volume is reciprocal of density. Density is equal to m upon v, mass by volume. So specific volume is volume per unit mass. Anyway, these extra relationship I always explain in tutorial class at that time, so that it will be helpful for you to solve the numerical problems. So in this case, what I have done, assuming or taking, not assuming, I am taking the diameter of yarn is equal to 34.14 square root v upon square root n. Okay, n is count of yarn. And also from Pierce geometry, this is our equation number 7, if you recall. D1 plus D2 is equal to H1 plus H2 is equal to D, capital D. By this time now you know what is H1 value, and also you know H2 value, 4 upon 3 P2 C1, 4 upon 3 P1 C2 square root. So substitute this value of H1 and H2 here, and you know D1 is, this is a D, so D1 will be simply this V1 or N1, D2 will be simply this V2 over N2. We can equate this one with this. I am not using this equation further, because since we are now discussing this point, I just want to stop it here as far as this explanation is concerned, so that when I will be using this equation in future, there is a chapter called crimp interchange derivation. I will be using this relationship. So at that time, please remember, don't say where from this relationship came. This is just for a future to be used, this relationship in future derivation, particularly in the chapter crimp interchange equation. It will come after 3-4 lectures. Crimp interchange phenomena. There is one chapter in your course. At that time, I will be using this relationship. So just remember this, how this equation has come. Okay. Now, the next parameter we will be dealing in this is fabric thickness. Very, very important. Again, don't go mathematically. Just imagine what we mean by fabric thickness in a woven fabric. We are trying to produce just one layer of fabric, and a fabric is formed because of interlacement of warp and weft. That means in our fabric, at any point of location, how many yarns we can have? If you look in transverse direction, in thickness direction, it will be maximum one warp or one weft. We cannot have another weft over this weft, or we cannot have overlapping one yarn over the other yarn. We can have, but then we have to do something different, overlapping the yarn or putting the yarn very close to each other, flattening the cross section, etc. Without flattening the cross section, without disturbing the cross sectional shape of the yarn, in a normal fabric, normally what we can have, just at any location in the fabric, we can have only one warp, one weft. That means what should be the thickness of yarn fabric? Maximum the diameter of warp plus diameter of weft. And if you recall, last time I told you there is a possibility that there will be not necessarily these warp yarn here is exactly sitting over warp weft yarn. There may be some gap between these two. But this gap is not a very long gap. It's just sitting over or maybe a small gap. So what could be the thickness? Thickness of a fabric could be H1 plus D1 or H2 plus D2. Look at H1. This is H1 by 2 because we are taking center from the center. Half. Full is H1. Similarly, diameter D1. Full taking D. So thickness of fabric at any point could be H1 plus D1 or H2 plus D2, whichever is larger. Not necessarily our diameter of yarn, warp and weft is always same. We normally try to make a balanced fabric. Balanced fabric means where the count of warp and weft both are same, but it's not, there is no hard and fast rule. We can take a coarse yarn, coarse warp and fine weft, or vice versa. So in that case, D1, D2, H1, H2 value will be different. But obviously, if we want to find out the thickness of the fabric, we have to consider the higher diameter one. For that reason, the formula could be H1 plus D1 or H2 plus D2, whichever is greater out of these two. Remember, this is the formula for fabric thickness. Many times this will come, and also in numerical problem will be asked to do this. Fabric thickness is H1 plus D1 or H2 plus D2, whichever is greater. When two threads project equally, this H1 plus D1 will be equal to H2 plus D2. And in this case, fabric gives minimum thickness. That is the condition of minimum thickness when both the threads will project equally. That means minimum thickness will be H1 plus D1, H2 plus D2 divided by 2, because it is only one thickness. So if I take it twice, then obviously I have to divide 2, which is called average value. That means H1 fabric thickness, minimum fabric thickness. Remember, this is the minimum possible, because in this case we are saying equally, project equally. I am not considering H1 plus D1, H2 plus D2, whichever is larger or smaller. We are assuming they project equally. That means both will be same. So actual minimum thickness will be, take the sum divided by 2. H1 plus D1 plus H2 plus D2 divided by 2. And we know D1 plus D2 is equal to capital D. Capital D, that means H1 is equal to D minus D1, or small h1 plus small h2 is equal to also D. So you can write in any form. H1 plus D1 is equal to H2 plus D2. If D1 plus D2 is equal to capital D, substitute the value of capital D. H1 will be D minus D1, or any manner you want to, combination formulation, whatever. It depends what is given to you and what you want to determine. Such a fabric produces smooth surface. So, okay, what is the significance of this point? I am telling you why we consider threads project equally in both sides. That means when both warp and weft threads project in a similar manner on the fabric, we get a uniform texture on the surface of the fabric. Fabric looks smooth. It's not that one thread is more projected, another thread is less projected, then you find a unevenness on the surface of the fabric. But if all the yarns are projected equally, obviously from the top surface itself, you will find the surface of the fabric is very, very smooth, or we call it elegant texture. Elegant texture means very, very smooth, and it ensures uniform abrasive wear. So what this information gives you? Many times I will give you such example. You have to realize those points and you have to correlate with actual fabric and actual fabric engineering principles. What does it mean? I am just trying to explain. It's not just for sake of mathematical derivation. It's necessary to understand and appreciate the relationship to engineer a new fabric. For example, I want a fabric which should have least abrasion resistance. I want to fabric, the surface should be highly rough. This is how we can imagine using these equations. Uniform surface means low abrasion resistance. So this will be the condition. If uneven surface means high abrasion resistance, that means I need to have a variation in projection of both the yarns. Under that condition, H1 plus D1 is equal to H2 plus D2 will not be there. More is the difference between these two summation, more will be unevenness, more will be abrasion resistance. So you might be thinking, what is the need of making a fabric which has a very high abrasion resistance? In many cases, we need to develop some fabric whose abrasion resistance should be high, surface should be uneven. There are some technical textiles where we are using these textile structures for rubbing material. We want to rub off some surface using this fabric. We have to make the surface very, very uneven. Then we have to design or engineer the fabric in such a manner the sum of H1 plus D1, sum of H2 plus D2 should be quite apart. As much difference you will find in these two sum, the fabric will give more and more abrasion resistance fabric. So this is how this concept is used in fabric engineering. And in other words, contrast to this, if you want a smooth surface fabric, elegant look surface fabric, or texture should be very, very uniform, then we have to go for this equation. H1 plus D1 should be H2 plus D2. Or from where this is, we call it minimum thickness. The relationship is like this. H1 is equal to D minus D1, or H1 plus D1 is equal to capital D. Okay. So this is how this relation holds good. Now I am giving you one numerical problem, just how this relationship we have so far discussed is used in practical applications. So all of you do this now, and because we cannot do much numerical problem, maximum one example in lecture class, 4 mu example, 3, 4, 5 examples in tutorial class. So this is one numerical problem. Try to write down this question first. Suppose a cotton sitting cloth made from 20 tex warp, 38 tex weft with 28 ends per centimeter, that is warp density, 25 px per centimeter, that is weft density. Warp-wave modular length is this much. So warp-wave modular length means L1. Find all other fabric parameters. Now you are given only 4 parameters. You have to find out remaining 7 parameters. What is given to you? 20 text warp yarn. From text, it is a cotton yarn. And if you know this formula I have given you in the tutorial class. So now you can note down here. From here you can find out to D1 value. From 38 text weft yarn, from here you can find out to D2 value. If the text packing density and fiber density is known, one can find out the diameter of yarn. From 20 D1, from 38 D2, 28 ends per centimeter. That means what will be P1? 1 upon 28. 28 ends per centimeter means number of warp yarn per unit length. So what is the distance between two consecutive warp? 1 upon 28. Similarly, peak density 25 means number of weft yarn per unit centimeter is 25. So what will be the distance between two consecutive weft yarn? 1 upon 25. That will be P2. So this is how we proceed. So this is called basically Grossberg equation. You will come across this equation in yarn part, but anyway, you remember this. You will be using this equation very frequently in solving numerical problems. Diameter of yarn 4.44 10 to the power minus 3 takes upon fiber density. So look at what you need to know. You need to know text of yarn, you need to know density of the fiber, and this relationship has been derived for a yarn whose packing density is known and 0.65 is assumed here. Okay, cotton fiber density is 1.5. If it is cotton fiber written in the numerical problem, you can straight away take this value. Okay, so otherwise if it is just some unknown fiber, then fiber density will be given you in the numerical question itself. So using this, you find D1 for warp, D2 for weft. Remember, 11 parameters means in 11 parameters it is capital D. It is not D1, D2, but capital D is simply D1 plus D2, as you know. So this capital D is equal to D1 plus D2 comes out 0.0386. I have already explained you ends per centimeter is 28 means P1 is 1 upon 28 is this much. Similarly, px per centimeter is 25. So P2 is 1 upon 25 is this much. So you know now D, P1, P2, 3 information. Fourth is already given in the question. Look at this. Modular length in warp, that means L1. So now you have 4. L1, capital D, P1, P2. As we have already discussed in theory, out of 11, if you know at least 4 information, you can solve for all other parameters. Okay, so you know L1, capital D, P1, P2. Now solve other parameters. P1, P2, L1, D is known. First, C1, L1 minus P2 over P2. Okay. If you find sometimes in examples which I am giving here, either in the lecture class or in tutorial class, some values are different from your calculation, you can make it your correction. Don't worry. Okay. But formula should not be wrong. The value, if you find some changes, sometimes it may be possible that wrong results are calculated here, but you can correct yourself. But approach and formula must be correct. C1, L1 minus P2 over P2, we are getting crimp 12%, warp crimp. H1, 4 upon 3 P2 C1, you know this relationship we have derived. Now H1 is coming 0.0185 centimeter. Once you know H1, then you don't use for H2 4 upon 3 P1C2 formula, because you already know D, so you use shortcut method. H1 is known, H2 will be D minus H1. There is no need to use again this formula for H2 because it's a longer process. You can save time. Once you know H1, we know H1 plus H2 is equal to D. So H2 is equal to D minus H1. You get this value. Okay. So we know now C1, H1, H2. 4 plus 3, 7 parameters. I am proceeding further. Either you this or you this, that one. You will get the same value. Okay. C2 is coming 17.8. Remember, for C1 and C2 value, look at the question what is given to you, whether it is written crimp percentage or simply crimp. If it is written simple crimp, you have to express in fraction. If it is written crimp percentage, you multiply by 100, express the crimp in percentage. So you have to be very careful, the crimp value. Okay. So here C2 is coming 17.8%. Now P1 C2 is known. From where you can find out L2, P1 1 plus C2, that is 0.0421 centimeter. Theta 1, the shortcut formula we have already derived, 2C1 square root. Theta 2, 2C2 square root. You can convert them radian to degree, radian to degree. Now we have all 11 parameters. C1, C2, H1, H2, L1, L2, theta 1, theta 2, P1, P2, and D. All 11 parameters. This is how you can calculate. So based on this minimum formula which we have so far derived, we can calculate all 11 construction parameters of a woven fabric. So please go through this derivation, try to understand how these calculations are made. I'll give you some more examples in tutorial class, 3-4 more examples in every tutorial class, so that you will be in a position to calculate all these parameters. Okay, and I will just give you one interpretation. See, when you are given text value and warp spacing, weight spacing, P1, P2, which are the things we usually know about a fabric. Whenever you will be asked to make a fabric in weaving production, normally these things are given. What count of yarn you are taking and what EPI, PPI you want to use. And obviously weave design will be given to you. But from weave design means basically weave design you will decide. Once you know the weave design and P1, P2 count known, then obviously it will, from the mathematics as you have seen, theta 1, theta 2 value will come out automatically. Crimp height also will come out automatically. So the geometry of the relaxed fabric is determined by a balance of force at the crossover points. So balance of force means, what do you mean by balance of force? Look at this. EPI, PPI. I'm changing the distance. Here is very close. Here is apart. As you go on changing this P value, the balance of force changes, because as it will be straightened more and more, this yarn will exert more pressure on this yarn. So the intra-yarn force at crossover points purely depends on what is our weave design. Here it is a plain fabric. If it will be some one up, instead of 1 up 1 down, it will be 1 up 3 down. Look at what will be the path of this yarn. It will go, look at my cursor. Instead of coming down here, it will go like this on top here, then it will go down, 1 of 3 down. That means the balance of force will be different. Changing weightage means the inter-yarn pressure will be different, balance of force will be different between. When I'm saying balance of force means how much force exerted by one yarn over the other, which is nothing but inter-yarn pressure at the crossover points. What is the force exerted by warp yarn over the weft yarn? And it changes many properties of the fabric, apart from the change in cross-sectional shape of the yarn, because our yarn is circular in cross section and compressible and flexible. If it will exert more pressure, the cross section of this yarn will be changed. It will not remain no more as a circle. It will be flattened to different shape. So these are the things we have to think, and which will come in subsequent classes. More complex geometry, more complex analysis because of balance of forces at the crossover points due to change in crimp, due to change in spacing between threads, and because of the compressibility of yarn and flexibility of the yarn. That is what the point of discussion at this point, just to give you food for thought for future derivations. Remember, if you change the construction parameters, the balance of force at the crossover points will change and the fabric properties will be different, which we will discuss in future classes. Okay, so this is all about for today. You can log out.